Hello and welcome to the Meeting Project podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel A. Franz, and as always, thank you for this opportunity to bring a little bit of mental health and meeting to your day. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Men's Peer Groups and the Men's Peer Group Experience. Men's Peer Groups was created with a single mission to reach as many men as possible, particularly those in midlife, and to provide a space, community, and shared experience where they can connect, discover meaning, realize their true self, and live a more authentic and purposeful life. I've been a part of men's peer groups now for almost 2 years, and being a part of it's been instrumental in my life, having a group of men where I can bounce ideas around, be vulnerable, and talk about, well, what's going on in my life. With the help of my friend, Dr. Rabbi B, we have created the Men's Peer Group Experience, where you can go sample a cohort of men's peer group in a shorter version for free. So you get 45 days free. That's 3 meetings because we're running 2 meetings a month right now. Ideally, we'll be running more, but hop on over to menspeergroup.com, take a look around, sign up for a free 45 days. That's 3 men's peer group experience meetings, and hopefully I will see you there. Today's podcast, I don't know, I think I'm going to do some storytelling today. I'm going to meander through an article I've recently written that you can find on danielafranz.com, or if you've signed up for the Monday morning mental health and meaning update, you'll receive that or have received that. The article comes from a ketamine experience, the big ketamine experience several years ago during my training in Boulder, Colorado. I had an amazing experience. I definitely support ketamine and other psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. But during that group clinical experience, I remember one of my peers, as we were processing her experience, made this statement. I know I can do hard things, but should I? Or maybe in my memory it was, I can do hard things, but do I need to? Do I have to? And I've really thought on that since that time, for a couple of years now, for a variety of reasons. One, the big story that I'm going to tell today, I've been meaning to get to this one for a while, is the story of the sweat lodge in Costa Rica. But it also ties into several other things. And this is kind of the essence of logotherapy in some ways. It ties into a sweat lodge in Costa Rica, parasailing, paragliding, whatever you call it, jumping off a mountain with a parachute in Switzerland, climbing mountains in Canada, and riding bikes. I don't know. They all tie together in my mind. Hopefully this isn't too much of a self-serving story, but I tell it with the intent of you ideally getting something out of it. So it starts several years ago, maybe about the same time as that ketamine experience in Boulder. I can't remember if the same year or not. A good friend of mine, the running man, who we now has transferred to the swimming man, so good job, buddy, convinced me to jump off a mountain with another man strapped to my back, hopefully having a parachute on. I think they call it paragliding or parasailing. I don't care what they call it anymore because I'll never do it again. It was an interesting experience. I believe I posted the videos to the Dr. Dan YouTube page. You can take a look there and get a good laugh because, well, I was pretty clinched up for that entire trip. I had my hands. Fortunately, there was a gentleman behind me, Toby, the instructor. It was quite his hobby. This whole area was full of people that just loved jumping off mountains with pieces of fabric holding them up. But it was then that I realized, it wasn't then. I've always kind of thought this. Sometimes doing difficult things is good for us, right? It pushes us. I don't need to jump off a mountain with a man strapped to my back and a parachute ever again. I don't know if I needed to do it then. Some people say it was fun. I didn't have fun. Some of you may enjoy that. I have a friend who wants to jump out of airplanes still. Not my thing. But recently, just a few weeks ago, the swimming man again convinced me to do something against my better judgment. Actually, when the text came out initially, I thought, all right, that's cool. Let's climb up a mountain. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. We were on vacation with several other couples enjoying a national park in Canada when the idea of Via Ferrata came up. Via Ferrata is Italian for making bad decisions on a mountain. That's not true. Via Ferrata means movement by iron, right? Back in World War I, the Italian army was trying to preserve their Dolomite mountains. They had to scale them in a variety of ways. And so they installed metal rungs and hooks and clasps and grabby things into the mountain so they could get up and down. And this has become a hobby for many people. So while we were in and around the area of Banff National Park, there was a Via Ferrata there, a system of cables and hooks and rungs to scale a mountain. It was far more fun than jumping off a mountain with a piece of fabric over you. And I may actually do that again, despite accusations that I was terrified and the depiction that I clung to. Okay, I did cling to it for dear life, even though I was strapped in with two hooks and a harness. You know, it was a little scary. It was kind of cool, but it also taught me a lot about myself. I had commented, thank goodness I was kind of at the peak of cycling training because I felt pretty physically ready for that. You don't want to go via ferrating up mountains if you haven't quite trained for it or aren't ready for it. But again, it was a reminder. I can do hard things, but do I have to? Should I? Do I need to? And the answer is, well, sometimes. Sometimes it can push us out of our comfort zone. It can help us do new things, and sometimes it's not. I can do hard things, but do I need to? For me, the hard thing I do every year, and I've talked about this a lot, exercise is an important part of all of our lives, especially should be an important part of all of our lives, especially here in the US, where many of us, I know for me, I sit in a chair day in and day out talking to people, helping people, right? That is not very physically active. Either I shouldn't eat much of anything, or when I do, I need to get some exercise. The human body was built to move. And I also find that to be a healthy challenge. So I've gone from running to swimming to triathlon to now. I really enjoy distance cycling, especially for charity. I'm a big fan of the Bike MS charity, cycling for multiple sclerosis. I found a team, I do it with people, I train all year long. And then I go out with this group of people and ride 75 or 100 miles over a weekend or 150 miles. It's awesome. I enjoy it. I can do hard things. And that one, for me personally, I have to. I feel I have to. And that's kind of an encouragement for everybody, right? Logotherapy teaches us that, there is meaning in suffering, but only we find meaning in suffering that we cannot control. If we have the opportunity to control that suffering, by all means, we certainly should. And I believe the suffering of riding 100 miles on a bike in a day is worthwhile suffering when it raises money for charity. And training for it is worthwhile suffering, but I don't have to. I could find something else to do. These things for me tie into a big story where I chose not to suffer, where I had the opportunity to suffer maybe meaningfully. I don't know. I didn't do it. So I've been wanting to tell you the story of the sweat lodge in Costa Rica. Personally, I find it kind of an enjoyable story, and I've told it a few times, and people say, wow, that is kind of interesting. So as you might recall, a while back, I went off to Costa Rica with a team of other psychedelic trained therapists to review a few retreat centers with the hope of hosting retreats in Costa Rica, where it is largely considered legal and indigenous to use psychedelic mushrooms for healing. Ironically, the very day I got back from that excursion and that bit of research, our president signed the executive order to fast track psychedelic assisted psychotherapy, especially for veterans. So may not be going back to Costa Rica anytime soon, but I can tell you this team and I will be hosting more retreats. We're planning one right now for sometime this year. So keep in touch. Send me an email if you're interested in something like that. We go off to Costa Rica. It was an interesting trip full of interpersonal dynamics and trying to sort through what kind of work we would do. Part of the difficulties with that trip was we went with the expectation that the center we would be working with would allow us to engage in observe an ayahuasca ceremony. Intention of using ayahuasca. I do not feel called to that right now, but I did want to, for the experience of understanding the ceremony would have been good. And also to conduct our own ceremony with psilocybin and possibly hape, which is ceremonial tobacco use, and maybe even cacao, which is ceremonial indigenous, cacao or kind of an indigenous hot chocolate. with a shaman, right? So we wanted to have a shaman experience as well. We had contacted a shaman, and the retreat center a week before we came out there said, no, we're changing our policies. You can't do any of those things. And if you want, we'll refund your money. And we thought, my goodness, we already have flights booked. Those are non-refundable, transportation, etc. A lot of non-refundable things. So we went through, but the leader, who doesn't want to be identified as the leader, but one of my peers said, you know what, I'm going to try to fix this. I will find another retreat center for us to review and bring the shaman aboard. So we did, but we weren't going to do psychedelics. We were going to engage in a indigenous sweat lodge ceremony. So that I was intrigued. I was interested. I said, okay, maybe I will give this a try. This sounds like a hard thing that could yield some positive results. So we had to go to this other retreat center from the one we were at. Beautiful white stucco buildings right on the ocean. It was gorgeous. It was, I mean, I would go back there just for fun and relaxation, not for work or psychedelics. And then the one we went to for the sweat lodge ceremony was sweaty. It was in the jungle, remote, and much more earthy. It was, man, it was primal. Very cool place. So we had to take a bus ride, about an hour, hour and a half to the sweat lodge. We get to this other retreat center, go down into the forest, into the jungle area, still attached to the retreat center, but very jungly. And we meet Shaman Alejandro, and he is he's everything you would think of as an indigenous shaman in Costa Rica in South America. Just small, tanned, fit, tribal, right? So he kind of squats down in the dirt. They had benches for us to sit on. The benches faced a large fire, and beyond that was the sweat lodge, about a 4-foot tall structure made of, I believe, this is important, 16 crisscrossing branches and blankets, thick blankets thrown over the top of it. No light, no air is getting in or out of that structure. And Shaman Alejandro sits down and he pulls out his tobacco pouch and starts to roll himself a cigarette. He says, I'm going to talk to you about the sweat lodge ceremony. And when I am done with this cigarette, we will begin. And he talks to us about strength and resilience and toughness. Ironically, he was trained in the Lakota Indian, the North American Indian style of sweat lodge ceremony. And it's about a vision quest. Really is about toughness. And in some ways, for me, different from my clinical or logotherapeutic training. Because one of the things Shaman Alejandro told us is, if somebody passes out, we do not help them. That is the spirits sending them messages. If somebody falls down, we do not help them. They need to pick themselves back up. And in some ways, I believe in that in the study of resilience. But in the psychedelic psychotherapy realm, it is all about helping each other. It is all about allowing somebody the space for a difficult experience, but then also processing it. So right from the start, I'm a little, I don't know, it's not vibing with me real well, right? But I prepare, and he continues to kind of give us some lore about the sweat lodge. And then the process. The process is we will all sit. Now I'm actually wondering at this point, do we have benches in the sweat lodge? Do we sit on the ground? What are we doing here? Turns out you kind of make an offering to the fire, say a little prayer, get down on your hands and knees and crawl in there to sit on the ground, on the red clay ground. We're going to get pretty dirty here. And it was kind of funny in that, speaking of getting pretty dirty, Shaman Alejandro says, okay, you men, probably you're not going to want to wear your shirts in there. They're just going to get soaked. And you can wear your shorts. We all had like athletic shorts on. He goes, well, you ladies, most ladies just go in there naked and maybe cover up with a towel or something. And the girls with us are like, no, we're gonna wear our bathing suits too, you dirty little shaman, you. One of the things he did warn us about before going in, excuse me, was part of the process is it's dark, it's hot, it's sweaty, it's spicy, he says. I don't know what spicy meant. I still haven't figured that out. He said, you won't be able to breathe, right? Like you can breathe, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hot and spicy. Don't breathe through your nose because you might burn your nose, and it might be hard to burn through your mouth. Now, folks, that's pushing me away a little bit already, right? Because most difficult situations in my life, personally, and what I instruct others to do is, if you're in a difficult situation, if you're experiencing anxiety or panic, you breathe your way out of it. When I was flying up in the air over a mountain with a man strapped to my back, hopefully having a parachute on his back, I had to breathe. It still gives me the chills, right? Looking down at the treetops, knowing, well, if I fall those 100 feet, at least the trees will catch me. Until we came over the canyon, and that was 1,000. Anyway, breathing through difficult situations, breathing through the Via Ferrata as I hung there on the side of a mountain looking to enjoy the view, right? Breathing through cycling 25, 50, 75, 100 miles, breathing through difficult situations when I think I can't get up out of my seat to give a speech. Breath and bringing more oxygen into the body is a way to deal with difficult situations. I was told I wasn't going to be able to breathe in this situation. There's 2 strikes. And so we all prepare. One of the group opted right from the start, said, I'm not feeling called to this. And I had thought coming into the retreat center that I was going to be able to kind of come in and out as needed. Shaman Alejandro said, no, once you're there, you're there. You sit. And if you get out, and you don't come back. And the process was going to be 4 rounds of about 15 minutes. Now, there's no timer, there's no clock. The 15 minutes were assumed by Shaman Alejandro's singing and chanting. He was going to sing 4 indigenous songs. And that's an interesting, we'll get to that part. So, getting a little sweaty just talking about it, right? So we make our offering to the fire, said a bit of a prayer, and got in there. And I knew personally I was sitting close to the door. I already had it in my mind. Not sure I'm going to go through with this. And so I'm sitting near the door. One of my gentleman peers is next to me, another one next to him, and our 2 young ladies across, right? So just enough room, and then Shaman Alejandro on the other side of the door, not realizing that his assistant, Kevin, was going to be coming in. So let's see. We sit down. It's cramped. I'm sitting cross-legged. My hips are already hurting because I had done so much yoga and stretching and meditation that week. I had realized I need more of it because my hips were just feeling like, man, I was uncomfortable, painfully uncomfortable. And in the middle of all of us, there's a pit, I'd say, I don't know, 1.5 feet wide and maybe 6 inches deep. Shaman Alejandro says, all right, Kevin, bring 6 stones. And Kevin is going to bring 6 volcanic stones that have been in that fire 4 or 5 hours all day long. They're going to be hot. And volcanic stones definitely maintain their heat. So I sit there and cross-legged, uncomfortable, and I'm watching Kevin bring a pitchfork with these stones. And this is cool part. Shaman Alejandro uses some kind of antlers to pick up the stone and put it in the kind of dugout pit in the middle of the sweat lodge. And it says, okay, and it's getting warm. I mean, it's 97 degrees outside in the jungle, and the interior of that sweat lodge is getting warmer and warmer with each stone. And then Shaman Alejandro tests the spiciness of the stones. I wish I could tell you I knew what herb or plant he put on it. Could have been cannabis, may have been tobacco. It smelled spicy. I'm guessing there's going to be some kind of psychoactive qualities to this. So I'm sitting there, cross-legged, uncomfortable, beginning to sweat, but it's a dry sweat at this point, right? It's just warm in there. It's a spicy sweat because I don't know what that smell is. It smells nice, I think, but it also smells like it's going to impact my mind in some way, and I don't know. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't like not knowing. If you'll recall from past podcasts, before my first ketamine experience, I went to a local provider and tried ketamine just so I know what the experience was. Before my psilocybin experience, I legally tried small doses of psilocybin to get an idea of what I was going to experience. There's no way to test a sweat lodge other than, well, I mean, I've been in saunas and hot tubs before, and those are usually pretty enjoyable. This was quickly becoming not enjoyable. So, sitting there cross-legged, uncomfortable with my peers around me, Shaman Alejandro across the sweat lodge from me. Kevin's bringing in stones. The shaman is putting spice on them, whatever that spice may be, and the temperature is going from 97 to God knows what. It's getting hot in there. I can breathe though because it's dry, right? And what I'm breathing smells pretty interesting. And then Kevin brings the sixth stone in. I'm still able to breathe. And I hear, I think a shaman has a small cup of water next to him. And I hear him just kind of, flick some water on there, sprinkle. And that sound will never leave my brain. The water sizzling off those stones was magical and terrifying because it starts to get a little sweaty, a little spicy, and Shaman Alejandro takes a ladle and pours a little bit more. It's getting spicy, it's getting sweaty, it's getting steamy, and then I see Kevin bring in what looks like my chili pot from home, which I associate that only because that helps me know the measurement. It looks like about 3 gallons of water. I thought, oh boy, it's going to get spicy and sweaty in here. And Shaman Alejandro continues to pour water over the stones. It's rising as hot spicy steam. I'm trying to maintain my breath. My heart rate is increasing rapidly, and I'm trying to control that through breathing. I can do difficult things, but should I? And thank you, Tanya from Boulder, for teaching me that, because that was going through my mind. I can do difficult things, but should I? And I think that's a meaningful question because it was meaningful in that moment for me. I think I'm starting to get a little choked up. That steam is rising. I am unable to breathe. I can't see. I forgot to mention that because it is pitch black in there. Can't breathe. Can't see. And my heart rate continues to increase. This was not a psychedelic experience. This was an exercise in panic. And again, states of panic and anxiety are controlled through breath. This was not. My mind is racing. My heart is racing. I cannot breathe. The spice, whatever that was, is having some impact on my mind. And it didn't take long as the sizzling of the stones crept into my ears more and more, recognizing there is going to be 3 gallons of water poured on these stones. That's going to be a lot of steam. I wonder if I could have breathed if I would have stayed. But in that moment, now at this point, I'm not close next to the door anymore. Kevin is next to me. And it was in that moment I decided I can do difficult things. I can do hard things. I don't want to do this. So I tapped Kevin. I said, I'm not going to do this. I think I said, I wish I could remember. I'm not going to do this. I can't do this. I don't think I admitted defeat. I think I simply took ownership and said, I'm not going to do this. And I crawled out into the chilly 97-degree jungle air and walked back to the bench in defeat. Now, I did feel defeated. I felt weak. I felt disappointed. And that's where my integration work began, just a few minutes after the sweat lodge started. Now, fortunately from that, and I'm not kidding, 97 degrees after being in a sweat lodge was chilly. So I was waiting for the sweat to dry off of me, and I got my journal out and I started to write. And it's interesting. I should go back to that journal at some point. It's sitting right over here. Recognizing I can do hard things, or just because I can do hard things doesn't mean I have to. Sometimes I should, just to push myself outside of my comfort zone, to grow, to learn, to evolve, to become, as Dr. Frankl tells us. But there are times I don't have to. I believe that via Ferrata a couple days ago taught me a lot about myself. It was difficult. It was hard. I'll do it again to grow some more. I won't do the 4-hour version our friends did, but 2 hours on the side of a mountain was enough for me. But that sweat lodge was too much. I didn't see the growth opportunity in it. And as I'm writing, Shaman Alejandro starts his chanting. And I tell you what, that was pretty helpful. Just kind of listening. He's drumming, he's chanting. And I enjoyed it from the outside. Not a lot of sound was escaping that sweat lodge. But I knew I didn't want to be in there. And he gets done, and the door opens, and Kevin comes out. And this is kind of the airing out experience where they allow air into it for the participants to chill, knowing that they're going to do this 3 more times. And now Kevin came over to me and he said, look, there have been times where I will go in during the cooling off period and be part of kind of the integration and come out during the hot part. And I said, these people are a community already. They are a container, as we call it in psychedelic studies. I said, I don't know if I want to interrupt that container. He said, no, it's okay. You should try it. And I went in and I sat, and I feel as though Shaman Alejandro had it in for me at that point. Because he's like, in the Lakota tradition, when you leave, you are gone. You are out of this. You are not welcomed. I thought, okay, I hear you, bud. I hear you loud and clear. But I also knew I was breaking the container. I was interrupting the community that was forming and the people that were still there. And simply put, I didn't belong. And that's okay. That can be a helpful realization in life when you don't belong, when you're interfering with somebody else's community. So I said, okay, I got the message. I feel the message myself. I'm not interfering with this community. So I stepped out and I went to the bench and I continued writing and integrating and looking at my own ideas of failure, past failures, that failure, and realizing, as I've always shared here, failure is good. Failure is the universe's way of telling you that didn't work out. Try again with a better plan. And I didn't need a better plan. I have no interest in going back to a sweat lodge. I will. I'm not feeling called right now, but I know I will return to my own psychedelic experiences and inner work. I just completed 75 miles on a Saturday and 50 miles on a Sunday for MS charities. I can do hard things, but I also get to choose what they are sometimes. I can have hard things forced upon me, and I can choose my attitude, as logotherapy teaches us. But there are also times when suffering is avoidable, and I don't have to do it. When suffering is unavoidable, I get to choose my attitude. So I chose my attitude. This wasn't failure. This wasn't defeat. I'm not weak. I'm not lesser than. I just didn't want to push myself to do a sweat lodge ceremony. And so I went and I sat next to my peer, the one who opted not to even begin. And he was funny. He's like, I was going to go over and talk to you, but I remember Shaman Alejandro saying, we don't help people. And so he didn't. But we kind of had a nice little chat on the steps. And then I don't think I ever told the sweat lodge participants this. It was kind of cool. It was maybe the jungle's way of reinforcing that it was okay not to be there. Because I look up, I'm like, oh, dude, check out the monkeys in the trees. And literally we're like, oh, there's 2 monkeys just kind of frolicking about, and looked around. There was like 5 more. And there was like a troop of monkeys just hopping around the trees, having a good old time. And I took that as a reminder. I can do hard things. Sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes it's okay to just have fun. Sometimes hard things are fun, like making mistakes on the side of a mountain climbing iron rungs. That was a good time. Sometimes those fun things are not fun, like jumping off a mountain with a man strapped to your back, hopefully having a parachute on his back. We get to choose very often the hard things we will engage in. And I hope you do choose hard things to engage in, to push yourself. Again, exercise is the easiest way. Sometimes education can be, certification, growth in those directions. By choosing our suffering, we become stronger, but we also have autonomy over the choice. I can do hard things, but it is a meaningful decision to determine whether or not you should. I'm glad I made that decision to step out of the sweat lodge. Obviously, it's been on my mind for several months since then. I wanted to share that with you. I'm not sure if you found it meaningful. I certainly found it meaningful to share, so I appreciate that. And as always, thank you for allowing me to bring this to you. Hey, just reminders, the beginning of the program was brought to you by Men's Peer Groups. That's menspeergroups.com and the Men's Peer Group Experience. This final part is brought to you by the Meaning Project Community. That is the meaningprojectcommunity.com. That's kind of my way of just sharing even more in a structured, architectured curriculum involving Frankel, your individual personality, and the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, psychedelic assisted psychotherapy, and personality? No, resilience. Yeah. Logotherapy, resilience, Myers-Briggs, personality, and it's just a really in-depth education into psychedelic assisted therapy. So you can find out more. Go check out themeaningprojectcommunity.com. Become a member if you want. Take a look at the curriculum, interact in the community. It's a good time over there. Themeaningprojectcommunity.com. Man, again, thank you. This was therapeutic for me. This was cathartic for me. I hope you found it meaningful. As always, you can find out more about me at danielafranz.com, DANIELAFRANZ.com. Take a look at menspeergroups.com. Take a look at themeaningprojectcommunity.com. I've got all kinds of fun things going on. You don't just have to come to my office for 1 hour a week or every other week, but there are many other ways that we can connect. I appreciate you. I find this work meaningful. I hope you do too. Take care.